Hello everyone, my name is Silvia, I'm an illustrator from Italy, and today I wanted to show you how I do my illustration on Procreate. This is an example of my illustration, my digital illustrations, and it's a great example of how I use this app and what I like in illustrations. I like to use textures and patterns, and my kind of illustration are really graphic, and I love using really limited color palette, and textures, patterns, and really rectangular and round shapes. I love playing with shapes to create weird characters. And before jumping on a new illustration, I want to make a really quick summary of how I use Procreate. And I want to show you the process that I use to do this particular illustration. I always start with a rough sketch, and sometimes is one sketch for a page. I set my Canva and start drawing what I have in mind, and other times I make more rough drafts, sketches in one page. And then after I make a rough sketch, sometimes it's like this kind of clean, and other times you really rough, just an idea of what I want to make and the composition. I'm sorry for the noise. And then after I made this rough sketch, I usually like to make another sketch, but this time is much cleaner, and you can see it's just one line with a brush, with a pencil brush. And I like doing this because it's easier for me later to trace over with the brush and do really clean lines. Now that I have my sketch, I go with my usual palette, or this time is this color palette, and I just block out the shapes and the parts that I want to color with the color that I choose. And sometimes I just change after I block out all the colors. I change maybe the order of the colors, or if I don't like a particular shade. And later I will show you the brushes that I always use. I use two brushes for this type, the colors and the shadows, and also the sketches. And there is nothing really. There's nothing much to say about this part of the process, because I just color, I just fill the parts, and I usually don't use the bucket tool to color in, but I go like I'm using a real brush, because the brushes that I use have a really nice texture that I like. So I usually just fill in by hand. And for the shadows, I use a 6B pencil brush, and I just do some shading part. And then after I color it, sometimes I stop here if I like it. But now I'm really into texture and patterns. So I use random brushes that I found that are already in Procreate to make some variation in the clothes or texture in the skin. I really like uh, this kind of effects. And yeah, I will show you how I do these kind of texture parts. So I think that's all for my summary of my illustration process, and we can start with a brand new illustration. All right, so this is the illustration that I want to do and color with you today. I'm not going to make the rough sketch and start from zero, just because will be a very long video, and maybe I can do it in another video, and you can tell me if you wanna see how I sketch in Procreate or in my sketchbook. So let me just turn this so you can see the illustration wider. So this is my rough sketch. I use the 6B pencil brush. I always use this, and I really like this to sketch out. I can make really thick lines and textural things for the shading. So I always use this, and also really fine lines. And this is also the pencil brush that I use for my shading, for my shadows. After I have the sketch done, I make another level, and I usually have it below the first one, and then I set the opacity of the first layer, the one with the rough sketch, really low, like 20%. And with the sketch, with this light sketch, I can now go over and sketch out the nicer, cleaner sketch. All right, now that I have my liner done, I turn off this first layer, the one with the rough sketch, and I have this really clean sketch to work with. And I just want to I just want to make some adjustments, just because in the other one of these series I have the ground, and this one. This is done. Sometimes I just make more adjustments in this stage of the process. Now we can finally color this illustration, and I usually change the order of the layers, and I have this first layer with the rough sketch below is the last one, and then I have this second layer with the nicer, cleaner sketch above is the first layer. And I don't usually rename my layers, but if you wanna do it. So now for coloring this illustration, I make another layer and I just lower the opacity of the sketch, like before, like 20%. And now I have my color palettes here. They are really random. I always use the same one. I usually use these first 6, 7 colors with black and white. But I have a new color palette that I really like, and I use it for the illustration I showed you in the beginning of this video, and it's this one from the pink to this burgundy red, really dark red, and this bright orangey red and white. And yeah, I will use this palette today, and I think I'll start with my background color, and we can go with this green, or maybe I will just let it white so that you can see the sketch, and then I will change the background color for last. All right, now I just pick a color and just fill in the shapes that I made, and I'll show you the brush that I use. It's in the ink section, and it's called Tinderbox. I really like this brush. When you fill in it has a really nice texture that you can see when you zoom in. All right. Now that I'm in this new layer and I have my sketch layer above, I just go over the lines. And then I just fill in this shape that I made. And you could turn off the first layer with the sketch to see how it looks without the lines, and maybe clean the lines to make it sharper. And I usually in a if I start with a color on a layer, I fill out all the parts that have the same color in that layer, in the same layer, and then over I go with a different color. So now I will just fill in with this pink. I like to color the shapes by hand, not only because it allows the brushes to keep the texture, but also because it's really therapeutic for me to just color in without thinking. And yeah, it's really relaxing. I don't use the snapping mode for the lines because I don't like really straight lines. I prefer it to be handmade, um, and it's a really nice balance and also contrasting thing that I like for my illustration, to have general shapes that are really clean, and maybe triangles or rectangles or straight lines or circles to make the general shape of my characters. But if you look closer, I like that my lines are not super clean like a vector illustration. I like the texture and the wobbly lines. So I just trace my line like this, and I delete a lot of times. I go over. All right, now that I have my pink parts all coloring, I will go on with another color, and I just make another layer and choose my color, and just fill in the parts that I want to color with this blue shade. And for my other illustration, I not always I use my colors like this. Sometimes I set my layer to be on multiply and use the color that mixes with the layer below to be another shade, so that I have these overlapping colors that make more shades. And yeah, I really like the looks of it. And yeah, it looks like maybe a risograph if you ever seen a risograph print, it's usually made like this with limited colors, and the overlapping colors create these shades. There are a mix of the two layers. And now for these little parts that I draw in the sketch, I want to keep the shape really clean. So I just make another layer above the blue one and choose this clipping mask. And with this setting, I can choose whichever color I want. And if I draw on the layer above the blue one, it will keep the shape below, so that I have these clean lines for the boot. But I can color in these shapes with different colors. And with this brush, you can see that it has some transparency in the texture. So yeah, you can see the color below. If it's a lighter color, you can see it very well, and I like it. Like this. And then if I want to make these shapes in a different color, I can just make another layer in between or above the yellow one, but you just need to set it in the clipping mask setting, so that it's you can draw inside the shape, the blue shape. And I think I want to set the background so that I can see which color I will use. Okay, I just finished color all the parts of the illustration, and I just had to close my camera because it was super hot, and I think it might explode in if I just keep record. So now that I have all my parts filled in with my colors, I think I want to make some shadows and lines. So I will just use this pencil brush, this 6B pencil, the one that I use for the sketch. And in a new layer, I will just go and draw some details where I think I need them. Maybe here the nails. My dog. My dog is barking. And then I will just add some shadows. Like here, I like to create a shadow where there should be a neck, but there isn't. And I just use the same brush, but I keep the pencil in an angle so that I can create this kind of texture and shading like a real pencil. And I want to make a shadow here. And then here. When I go on outside the shape, I usually do it so that I don't have weird gaps. So that I use the eraser to just erase the part where it goes on the background. And I think this layer I want to set it on multiply so that you can see even when I go over the same color but in another layer, you can see that it will be darker because I set it on multiply. And I always have some shading here for the cheeks. And to draw the face, I use the ink brush, the Tinderbox brush. And yeah, nothing really special. I just use these two brushes for the main colors and lines and shadows. And then I always have some shadows here on the ground. sometimes I just add some really light texture with the same shading brush, just to make it more interesting and to have more I don't know, variation in the clothings. And I think that's it. Maybe I will add some later. And now we can go to the next part of the process, which is textures and patterns. And for the textures, I use just some random brushes that I found online and that I like the textures. And I don't know, I have a lot of imported brushes, and I can't remember where I found them. To add texture, I do the same thing I did for these different shapes inside the blue one and the boots. So maybe we can add some pattern inside the pants here. And I already have a clipping mask layer for these things for the knees. I don't know the name for them. So I just add a layer in between them, and it's already a clipping mask. It's already a mask layer. So I can choose a color. Maybe we can go with... I didn't use this red. Maybe we can just change some colors. Just because I just realized that I didn't use this red. I choose the color, maybe this one, or maybe, well, I'll see later. Two of my favorite brushes for patterns and textures are these two Rusty Rakes strokes, and I will show you. They look like these. I don't know if you can see. They're like the pencil brush that I use, but multiplied in like lines. And this one has more lines. And I just use them like this. Maybe we can use a slightly bigger brush. And I just make vertical lines. And I'm snapping them to make them parallel. And yes. So I'm holding down my finger with my left hand, and then when I have all my vertical lines, I will go with my horizontal lines and just make these this square pattern that I really like. And I don't really care if there are lines that don't really match. I like the... I don't know, I like when things are really structured, but also you can see that there are some mistakes and are just made by hand, even though this is like a brush that makes more lines, so it's not that I'm making line by line. But here this is the first pattern, and then maybe we can add something right here. Again, I make another layer and I make sure it's a mask layer, and I choose a color. We can go with maybe yellow, and I have these brushes, oops, like these brushes, or I can go with this thing that I always do, just make some scribbles, and I think it looks really, I don't know, really cute. And maybe we can do the same thing here. And here. Like this. And then maybe we can add something like something here on the ground. If I use the same color but set the layer on multiply, but I don't really like it. Maybe we can add another layer and use like this. Let me see if I change the color. I think I want to change these wheels, so I just find the layer and use the drop tool to fill them. It's just trying different different colors or different brushes. Maybe we can do this one, this speckles one. Yeah, this is much better. And we can add something in the background. Maybe I can adjust the opacity. And yeah, we'll just play with my brushes. So my camera died, and I think I need to buy another one because this is really old and it's so difficult to record really long videos with this camera. And I've been recording for 2 hours, so this took 2 hours. So I just played around with colors, and I changed the background colors and the ground and some other some other things. But here's the final illustration. And let me know if you like this new format, this new type of video. I really enjoyed it, and I think I want to make more videos like this, like draw with me or sketch with me, and maybe in Procreate or in my sketchbook, or maybe some paintings. Yeah, let me know what you like to hear and to watch, and maybe maybe you can write down below in a comment if you are an illustrator, if you're an artist, and if you use Procreate, if you like digital art, or if you're a traditional artist. And I hope you liked this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I wish you a really, really nice day, and I will see you in the next video. So, bye!